Most of us think of our neighbors as friendly faces, people we can trust. But what happens when the person living next door isn't who they seem to be? Tonight, we bring you The Nightmare Next Door. True, scary neighbor stories that will make you think twice about who's really living nearby. Let's begin. Story 1. The House That Watched. Our first story takes place in a quiet neighborhood where a woman named Sarah lived next to a house that always seemed off. The blinds were always closed, and she never saw anyone go in or out. But late at night, she'd feel someone watching her. One evening, Sarah glanced out her window and saw a silhouette standing behind the blinds. It didn't move. She thought it was her imagination. But the next day, she found a note slipped under her door. It read, "I see you." Terrified, she called the police. They checked the neighbor's house but found no one inside. Just piles of old furniture and a thick layer of dust. Sarah moved away shortly after, but she still wonders who or what was watching her from that house. Story 2. The Smiling Stranger. Our second story is about a family who moved into a charming suburban home excited for a fresh start. Their neighbor, an older man named Mr. Collins, greeted them warmly and even brought over cookies. But something about him seemed too friendly. At first, they brushed it off. But then, strange things began to happen. The family's dog refused to go near the fence separating their yards, growling every time Mr. Collins was outside. And one night, they heard tapping on their bedroom window. Things escalated when they found a small wrapped package on their doorstep. Inside was a doll that looked eerily similar to their daughter, with a note that read, "I like watching her play." The family confronted Mr. Collins, but he just smiled and said, "I only wanted to be friendly." That was the last straw. They moved out a week later, leaving behind their dream home and the nightmare next door. Story 3. The Basement Lights. Our final story takes place in an apartment building where a college student named Jake had just moved in. His neighbor, a middle-aged man named Rob, seemed nice enough. He'd always wave and ask Jake how his classes were going. But one night, Jake noticed something strange. Every night, Rob's apartment would glow with a strange, flickering light like a strobe. And sometimes, Jake heard muffled voices, as if Rob was talking to someone or something. One evening, curiosity got the better of him, and he knocked on Rob's door. Rob's reaction was strange. He seemed nervous and said, "Now's not a good time." After that, Jake noticed the lights in the basement storage area flickering late at night, even though no one was supposed to be down there. One night, Jake decided to investigate. He opened the basement door and found Rob sitting in the middle of the room, surrounded by mannequins. They were all dressed in wigs and clothes, positioned as if they were alive. Rob looked up and said, "I was just having a party. Would you like to join?" Jake ran out of the building that night and never came back. Weeks later, he found out that Rob had disappeared, leaving behind an apartment filled with mannequins and a locked door no one could open. Neighbors can be a blessing or a curse. These stories remind us that the person living next door might not be who they seem to be. So next time you hear a strange noise or get a little too much attention from your neighbor, ask yourself, are they a friend or a nightmare? Which story scared you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. And remember, sometimes the scariest thing is closer than you think.